Hello everybody. Here I'm having a look at a classic pocket knife, the small Reeve Sebenza in a specific variant. We call this variant the Insingo variant, currently only for sale by a shop called Knife Art, where actually they designed this particular blade form. I come back to that, and from what I understand, actually the knife will be part of the normal Reeve range from sometime in 2011. So before we do a few interesting comparisons, this is indeed the Sebenza. If you are into high quality pocket knives, you have, I think, at least heard about the Sebenza as being the ultimate in good quality pocket knife, something very, very precise. And what's interesting about this is well, it's actually already designed, you could say, the first version from the late 1980s, when Mr. Chris Reeve, who's South African, handmade his first you could say custom versions, really handmade, and I believe that was then the bigger model. So there is actually a bigger and a small variant of this. In the past, I must say, purely stylistically, while I knew they were pretty good, at least pretty good, they never really appealed to me. For your information, the classic Sebenzas have a blade form that's much more likely like this one, which is actually, this is a very cheap Chinese knife that I will discuss in another video, which is clearly inspired by the look of this one. But that's more the classic form of the blade of the Sebenza. I, however, was more charmed by this, you could say, wharncliffe blade, so with a very much dropping point tip, I mean, with an edge that's not yet flat but almost flat, with a bit of belly, and typically for all kind of usage, purely slicing and food prep, and that was indeed the first usage I made of this knife. I was helping a friend actually. This kind of blade is very, very good, and I always liked the look of wharncliffe blades. Not everybody does. It also has a pretty sturdy tip, and yet the tip is here is sharp enough if you need to pierce something like making a hole in leather, that kind of stuff. So, but like I said, while the normal Sebenza here, for me, it was always the handle a bit plain and so on, unless you have a very expensive luxury edition. This one, it appealed to me. It reminded me a bit of on certain Klötzlis that I have, who have a kind of similar blade form. So first, a few facts here. This small variant, the weight is 3 ounces or 85 grams. By the way, there have been a few other variants over the years, but this is, you could say, based on the current release of the Sebenza, and you can see little details here that are a bit different. And anyway, it's a design that's being continuously refined. So 3 ounces, which is very good in the pocket, full titanium handle, very, very sturdy. And you see, I wore it a few days in the pocket, and you begin to see it a bit that it has been used, but that's quite okay. It's something that begs to be used actually. The blade is a hair under 3 inches, meaning 7.5 centimeter, meaning depending on where you live, very often still legal. The thickness is 3 millimeter, or maybe tiny bit above 3 millimeter if you can measure very precisely. And actually Chris Reeve was the inventor of the frame lock, meaning really that the handle itself has this pre-bent cut out that locks here into place. And if you see here where really the end is, it locks roughly halfway, so you have plenty of space for it traveling to the right to take wear into account. The real strength is not actually this thickness here at the top, where the blade connects, but rather here where the cutout is, which is still comparable to a pretty decent liner lock. But it must be said, I think, compared to a liner lock, the fact that you have a bigger contact area than most liner locks makes that the wear will go slower actually. So this is really a knife that can be used hard for a long time. Also, if you really hold it tight, compared to a liner lock where there's a body panel in the way, you really keep the lock nicely tightly locked. So what is now So that is also interesting. Typical about the Sebenza, as you, when you see this channel, may know actually, is that it is said to be extremely precise. In fact, probably the most precise of all, of nearly all production folders, and probably also more precise than most custom folders. The tolerances with which here the pivot area, those elements are put together, are really microscopic, very, very precise. And indeed, what you have with this brand, they are so confident about, it's a very simple construction actually, but strong, simple, very precise elements. Well, you're allowed to take it apart, to clean it, and put it back again. It will function just right again. So that is really interesting. By the way, yes, the blade is stone washed and hollow ground here, and in my opinion a bit too pointy thumb stud is blue anodized here. So, but indeed this extra precision comes at a price. It's not a cheap knife. The blade is S30V, which these days you find very often actually. So it is not a cheap knife because of the high precision. Maybe also it's a bit of branding, like a BMW, that you pay more, perhaps also for the not only for the precision, but there can be a marketing reason. That's quite acceptable. The question rather is, yes, it may be more precise than two of the very best Spydercos. Together, these still, this is a bit dirty, the carbon fiber, it's difficult to get it out. Anyway, these two together did cost me a bit less than the small Sebenza. So this is the stretch carbon fiber ZTP steel, a nice bigger knife, and here quite a good competitor, you could say. The classic, modern classic Spyderco Kali 3 carbon fiber handle, and also roughly the same blade size, but in ZTP steel, which is probably even more high-end. I'm prepared to believe that this is indeed more precisely built than these two. But what is true, however, while I mean, I like precision, obviously, I like quality, there is a bit, you could say, a diminished return on investment that you have. It's like very expensive high fidelity as well. These sound a bit better, but at a certain point you can wonder how much does it really matter. Well, suffice to say, if you are into knives and you like this precision that will last for a very long time, well, you probably think it's a good investment. Myself, I think it's indeed. It is. It has something that feels very precise, that urges you to use it. But I'm not convinced if it's really double as good as these two that I just held. Even maybe it's 10% better, because these two are really seriously good actually. So that is an aside where I wanted to stress how much is extra precision worth? It is a bit debatable. Also when it comes to finish, so, well, here, while Sebenza is pretty much known, if you have seen some of my other videos, you may have noticed that I really like the Swiss brand Klötzli. So this actually is, in my opinion, pretty comparable in a precision to what Chris Reeve does. So very tightly made. It's a liner lock here, a thin but well adjusted liner lock, which for normal cutting will also be, this knife is also perfectly usable over many years. It is true, however, that the Sebenza is harder use. I'm certain about that. But when it comes to real precision of the finish, I actually think that the Klötzli is a bit nicer, because look here, what they do actually, they combine sandblasted and polished titanium in one handle, which I think looks really nice. Here it's just a sandblasted, very utilitarian, but some people think it's part of the charm, piece of titanium. And here they have even, the inside here is anodized of the liner. the liner look itself. It's also titanium. See, that is, I think, quite nice. You see also the sun-blasted areas. Also, when it comes to nice finish, so that's not the same as precision, because I think that's a bit similar, is that here in the Klötzlis, the screws are nicely flush mount, which add to that total luxury feel, actually. And while in the Sebenza, they stick out a bit. And so then again, indeed, the Sebenza is more a hard use, even while small, is more a hard use thing. And while the Klötzli is definitely a kind of a high quality, sturdy gentleman knife, I think actually that this, especially Insingo variant, can have the same kind of role, because it doesn't look too aggressive, it's purely for performance. I'm not certain, I think that the Klötzli has Teflon inside for smooth opening, which is nice, but which makes it by its very, in the pivot area, I mean, which make it by its very nature less sturdy than the pure bronze kind of parts that are in there. So yes, it is indeed, I think we can agree this is a pretty nice knife. It's a very good knife. The handle, while it seems so simple, it's actually quite good in the hand. It didn't look that comfortable, but it is pretty okay. There's some jimping here, but not very aggressive. So, but it helps holding your finger in the right spot. The foam here of the front of the handle will really stop your finger so it doesn't come on the blade. So all in all, it is pretty interesting. What else? Well. By the way, you should not flick open his Reeve knives. He doesn't like that. You can lose your guarantee on that. And well, I'm not the kind of guy who does that. I do it slowly, because otherwise this can really wear too quickly. You don't want to be flicking it open and playing with all the time. It's not designed for that. It's a hard use folder, but it's not designed for stupid use. It's strictly tip up carry. I actually prefer a bit the tip down, to be honest, but okay, good. And here you see this one screw here with the simple but efficient titanium clip. Now, strangely enough, this is one thing stylistically that I prefer on this dumb, cheap Chinese knife, which is actually only like, I'm not kidding, $4 that it cost. Because, well, here it's actually tip down. And what I like especially stylistically is that the clip comes of the cheap one, comes over the slit of the locking bar, which I think it looks good, because I don't really like the look of that slit. Also, strangely enough, the jimping on the cheap one is a tiny bit better, but of course that is the only thing in which respect that the cheap Chinese knife is a bit better, but okay. So it's not a big deal, but well, to my taste, it's something small, I have to say. Also, what they have now here in this little pillar, they add by default, which is also blue anodized, they add by default a kind of lanyard thing, small thing. Not certain yet. I leave it on for now, because it will be difficult to get it off afterwards anyway. The blade just doesn't touch it. But so what you have, you can imagine, when you put it in your pocket with a clip, then this sticks out a bit, well, awkwardly actually. So it ends up very visibly, which, well, that's why currently I just wear it in my pocket without the clip, carry it in my pocket without the clip, because I'm not yet convinced about the utility of this. Here is another hole, and well, I'm not 100% certain why it's there, because you can already see the blade there to it. Maybe that in the classic one, I don't have a picture with me, that the tip already goes up, that you can put something in it. I don't know why that's there actually, that little hole. So yeah, we're almost to the end. I hope this was an interesting overview of a Sebenza that's a bit different from the norm, a more gentlemanly kind of formed Sebenza. Indeed, really high quality. I hope I gave you a few interesting side notes. Is the value there? Well, it's a bit debatable, but yeah, extra quality you always pay a lot more to get that bit more in precision, but definitely this will last for a very long time, and it's a bit unassuming, and that I like that unassuming. It's also perfect size for carry. You rarely need bigger than this. So feel free to leave feedback.